Welcome to the Business, Finance, and Justice meeting. Today is Thursday, October the 12th, 2023, and I call this meeting to order at 4:01 p.m. Invocation, Representative Mark Randolph, if you provide that, please.
Lord, we're thankful for another day that you've given us, for all the blessings. Watch care through the nights, Lord, and your guidance and directions. We thank you for all that, Lord. We ask that you just clear our minds, that you would give us the discernment we need to do the business of the nation, and ask a special blessing on all those who are present, all those who are online, Lord. Bless us like you always do, and we give you all the praise and all the gratitude. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Representative Randolph. Roll call, Legislative Clerk April Lindsay.
Patrick Freeman.
Here.
Sandra Golden.
Present.
Randall Hicks.
Present.
Thomasine Yola Osborne.
Present.
Mark Randolph.
Present.
Madam Chair, you got 5 present and 0 absent.
We have 5 present and 0 absent. This constitutes a quorum, and all business conducted will be valid. Approval of minutes from September the 21st, 2023. When the committee is ready, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented with, I make a motion to approve the minutes with any necessary changes as needed.
We have a motion from Representative Hicks to approve the minutes with any changes necessary. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Representative Randolph. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Patrick Freeman.
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor and 0 against. The minutes of September the 21st, 2023 are approved. The next item on the agenda is order of business.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to move NCA 23-130 to the start of the agenda, please.
We have a motion from Representative Freeman to move NCA 23-130 to the top of the agenda. Do I have a second? We have a second from Representative Golden. Discussion? Any discussion on that? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Patrick Freeman.
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor, 0 against. NCA 23-130 has been approved to move to the top of the agenda. At this time, I will relinquish the chair to Vice Chair Sandra Golden.
Thank you, Representative Osborne. The next order of business is NCA 23-130, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation amending NCA Title 26, Chapter 2-201, E entitled Compensation. Sponsor Thomasine Yola Osborne.
Motion for due pass.
A motion for a due pass by Representative Osborne. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion for a second by Patrick Freeman. Discussion. Ms. Osborne. Representative Osborne.
Mr. Wiley.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for moving me up. I have to travel tonight. We have a conference tomorrow with the Pawnee on legal education. Can you hear me okay? All right, thank you. This legislation is to adjust the salary for judges, and I'm going to start with paragraph E, section 2-201E. That pertains to the chief district judge, and that's me. And I want to make it clear I'm not asking for a raise, and I don't expect a raise in this. What I am asking for is the opportunity to receive the same cost of living increases that other employees at the nation receive. Because right now I'm capped out at the 180, and I won't get those raises, and we've had record inflation, 8% in 2022, 4% this year. 180,000 today is worth 158,000. It's not the same. So that's the purpose in asking for the adjustment. And I want to reiterate, I'm not expecting a raise. I'm not asking for a raise. We go down to the next paragraph. Each district judge shall be compensated the amount of $150 per hour, increasing that cap for the associate judges. And here's why it's important that they be paid that. I went through and I calculated how many judges there are in the 8 counties where we operate. I didn't include Rogers because that's such a small slice. But all the 8 others, we have state district court judges. We have 55 state district court judges in those counties within our reservation boundaries. And our court is operating with 4 judges. Nobody's complaining, but the fact of the matter is there's a lot of work to be done. And the criminal judge in particular has been working in excess of the hours that she's allowed. I think that works out to about 60 hours a month. And she's not complaining. She's doing the work because she cares about it. And sometimes she's here till 6 or 7 o'clock at night. And the reason I'm requesting this legislation, the associate judges did not request it. I'm doing this on my own. But the criminal judge, Judge Otopobi in particular, has been spending a lot of time that she hasn't been compensated for. So this legislation would allow her to be compensated for the extra time that she spends. And the criminal dockets, jury trial dockets, especially take time. Those matters could go into the night if the jury's out deliberating. So that's the purpose of that. And I just wanted to throw out a few numbers here. Between July 1st, 2022 and June 30th, 2023, we had 6,500 active cases. We disposed of 3,698 of those cases, which is a 57% closure rate, and I'm real proud of those numbers. I don't think there's any of these other jurisdictions that I just mentioned in the 8 counties who can make that claim. I'm real proud of what our judges have accomplished, and I think that they should be compensated fairly. They also, we've instituted an agreement with the Bureau of Prisons, which the council approved, and we have prisoners going to federal prison now to serve their time, so we don't have to pay the county jail for every day the prisoner is in there. They go to federal prison upon approval by the Bureau of Prisons. So the court's been doing some good things. I wanted to report that to the council, but ask for your approval of this legislation. So that's really why I'm here.
Are there any questions from the council? Mr. Randolph?
Mr. Wiley, I was just wondering, how come we didn't discuss this during budget hearing?
How come we didn't discuss it? I don't know. I didn't think to bring it up. We've got the money in our budget, so we wouldn't need an adjustment to our budget. We could pay it through what we were already approved for back in July or August, whenever we were here.
Then I guess, Ms. Killian, or how would we sustain this? I mean, what's the funding source and how would we sustain it?
Ms. Killian?
Yes, I'm here. Not looking at their budget just yet, but they're saying that it is actually, they have funds in your budget now
Yes.
to cover this particular.
Yes.
I would need to review, but I mean, if they have the budget in, I mean, the funds in there now, then, you know, we wouldn't have to do a budget increase. But that they would just have to make sure they put that in for the next year's, the next year's budget, but I would need to review.
Madam
If-
Chair,
Representative Osborne, were you next?
The question that I had, Mr. Randolph has already addressed.
Mr. Freeman, you're online?
yeah, I think I think their monies are, this particular situation can be encompassed in their contractual line item. I think that was kind of possibly a forthcoming plan, but, I think it is in their contractual line item, so there will be no budget increase.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Representative Hicks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Wiley, you kind of went over some numbers as far as the cases that are being heard or seen.
Mhm.
Guess my question is, why wasn't any of that presented to us?
We've been sending it to the speaker every month, or every 3 months, every quarter. Our court administrator sends those numbers to the speaker.
It's just, I mean, just to be honest with you, this is all I got. It's just your piece of legislation. The cases that you've brought up, I have not seen.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, with the budget that was approved, and you're saying you already have funding in there, so you're not asking for more money, instantly I'm thinking, okay, where are we pulling this from? But Representative Freeman already knows it's coming from contractual, which it wasn't shared with us, so I just need more information. In order for me to support this right now, I would need more information as far as justification. I mean, I'm sure what you're saying is true, but for me, I would like to have it in black and white. I don't know how the rest of the,
What information would
feels.
you like to see?
well, I need some justification.
Well, what in particular?
Well, why do you want it? Why are you asking for it?
Okay, I could go over it again. We're
Uh,
handling a lot of cases.
I'd rather have it in black and white, sir.
Okay, and we've sent those case numbers to the speaker.
Okay,
Would you rather we send those to you or?
Wiley, I did not receive them. You said you sent them to the speaker, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Once he has them, what he does with them, I can't ask him, or I can't do anything about that. I mean,
Right.
if you want to send it to the committee, that's fine. If you want us to see it, then I suggest you send it to the committee.
All right,
Thank you.
let them know.
Any more questions by anybody? Representative Osborne?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Wiley, I agree with Representative Hicks, because as looking at this, there's no justification on the number of hours that are worked either. I think that would be something else that we probably would like to see in writing, those figures as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have another question?
Yes.
Mr. Hicks?
And Mr. Wiley, back to the amounts, I mean, where did you come up with the numbers?
Just,
And how did you come up with them?
Based it on how much additional work they've been doing that they weren't being compensated for.
Okay. And I hope you can see where I'm coming from.
Oh, sure.
I mean, all I'm taking, if I support this, all I'm taking is your word. I don't have anything in black and white. I know you said you sent it to the speaker, but I haven't seen it.
Okay.
Thank you.
One more question, Mr. Randolph?
Mr. Wiley, other than the data, what about hiring more employees? Would it help to have more employees to
we've
help
hired-
in the
We definitely have done that.
workload?
Yes, we've done that. We've hired a lot more employees. We're going to hire more still. And once we open the modular building, we'll need a couple more people over there too.
And I was kind of wondering, just to kind of dovetail off what they're saying, is any data, that shows, because I was thinking, when you say an increase in the workload, was you projecting that, or you've already seen it, or you're saying it's coming down the road, or what?
The figures that I gave you, the 6,500 cases were actually filed in our court. And we disposed of 3,698 of them. So those are actual data. That's the data we sent to the speaker and the chief.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Anyone?
Madam Chair, Speaker Lowe.
Oh, okay, Speaker Lowe, and then Representative Hicks. Go ahead, sir.
Hello, Madam Chair. I do actually forward those to the council, just to let everyone know. I will double check this last quarter's report to make sure if I just didn't send it to you all, but I usually scan and do send that to you. Just want to say that. Madam.
Thank you, Speaker Lowe. Representative Hicks. Oh,
Ms. Wiley, it kind of goes back to the budget, kind of like Representative Randolph is saying. You're saying you're going to hire more staff in the future. But again, I'm thinking, okay, the budget, you've budgeted for that. But if you're going to use the funding to cover this, then where's the other funding coming to cover?
It's in the budget that was approved by the council. Those positions have already been approved.
Okay. See, that's kind of where not having it in front of me to see. Just didn't know where funding's coming from or where you're pulling from to cover pulling from A to cover B is what I'm trying to say, I guess.
Representative Osborne.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Wiley, under E, under compensation, there is a line that says that the chief judge may elect to participate in fringe benefits provided to judicial branch employees. And then compensation will have FICA and federal income taxes withheld in the same manner as any other employee. I'd really like to hear about the fringe benefits, if you don't mind to elaborate on that.
Okay, it's health insurance and 401k. Those are the fringe benefits that are included.
Okay, so right now, it's not included.
No, it is included now, yes.
Okay,
Yes, I'm receiving those benefits.
okay.
Is it included in your total that's in this bill?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Harjo, you keep having your hand up. So do you have something that you would like to include? Could you come to the podium, please?
I did want to mention, and thank you for recognizing me. I did want to mention that the courts as well as our justice systems are in receipt of an increased additional funding for through our self-governance compact. And the courts themselves have received a significant amount of funding. They still have yet to appropriate in that self-gov money. I believe that there's a good possibility that we'll continue to receive advanced appropriations for McGirt-related expenses. And so I believe that the funding source could be self-governance moving forward, at least to help cover some of the cost for staffing and fringe and benefits and whatnot. So Light Horse also receives similar funding, but I've discouraged them from utilizing their self-gov funding just because of the number of officers they have. The self-gov funding in their division wouldn't go as far, but for the courts, because there's less staff, I think their additional appropriations should be able to absolutely supplement any other, I guess, salary-related funding needs. So that's just another funding source I want to put out there.
Thank you, Mr. Harjo. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, Judge Wiley?
No, that's all.
There's no more questions. Representative Osborne.
Madam Chair, I would like to postpone this until the next BF&J meeting, making a motion to postpone until the next BF&J meeting so that we can have more justification along with this legislation.
So there's a motion from Ms. Yehola Osborne to postpone the legislation for the next BF&J committee meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Representative Randall Hicks. Roll call vote.
Thomasine Yohola Osborne,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
So does Mr. Judge Wiley, do you understand the data that they've asked for? Okay, thank you. With that, I will turn the chair back over to Representative Thomasine Yehola Osborne.
Thank you, Ms. Golden. PR 23-108, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the principal chief to execute a legal services contract between the Muskogee Creek Nation and Conji and Katzen PLLC. Sponsor is Representative Randall Hicks.
Madam Chair, motion do pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Hicks. Do I have a second? We have a second from Representative Golden. Discussion? Representative Hicks?
Madam Chair, make a motion go into executive session for discussion on this.
We have a motion from Representative Hicks to go into executive session. Do I have a second? We have a second from Representative Golden. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor and 0 against. That motion passes. We are in executive session at 4:22.
Would you like to stay?
Representative, okay, there was no action taken on TR 23-108. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor and 0 against. TR 23-108 passes. 23-109, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation establishing tribal membership in the National Congress of American Indians. Sponsor, Representative William Lowe.
Motion to do pass.
Madam Chair,
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Randolph. Do I have a second? We have a second from Representative Hicks. Discussion? Speaker Lowe?
Hello, Madam Chair. No big discussion. It's just our annual membership, ma'am. Hello.
Any questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
yes.
Sandra Golden,
Yes.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor, 0 against. TR 23-109 passes. NCA 23-124, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the expenditure of the Department of Justice Office of Justice Program Support for Adam Walsh Act Implementation Grant Program for the benefit of the Light Horse Police Department. Sponsor, Representative Randall Hicks.
Madam Chair, motion do pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Hicks. We have a second from Representative Randolph. Discussion, Representative Hicks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have a representative from the Light Horse. I apologize. She told me her name and I already forgot, so I apologize.
Hi, it's Angela Jones with Light Horse. Yes, thank you for hearing me today. This is for an award that we received from the Department of Justice. It's for a SORNA officer for 3 years, and then we'll retain them for another 2. It'll also buy a vehicle for them and uniform.
Is there any questions? Any questions from the representatives in attendance or online? Representative Golden?
How many SORNA officers do you already have?
Right now, we have 3, and we have another position that we will be filling as well, and so that will make 4, and this will be 5.
And they all cover the whole reservation?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
And just one other thing, do they have to have any kind of agreements with the local Chamber of Commerce, the schools? Because I know you have to post sometimes where they can go and where they can't go.
Well, we have the notices on the doors here on all the tribal buildings, and I'm not sure, I'll be looking into that. If they do that for anyone else, I know they do it on our tribal properties.
Thank you, Representative Golden. Any other questions? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor, 0 against. NCA 23-124 passes. NCA 23-125, allow the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing a lawsuit to be filed in federal court in the name of the Muskogee Creek Nation seeking declaratory and injunctive against the city of Tulsa exercising unlawful jurisdiction within the boundaries of the Muskogee Creek Nation Reservation and appropriating funds for the action. Sponsor, Representative Randall Hicks.
Madam Chair, motion due pass substitute.
We have a motion for due pass to approve the substitute. We have a second from Representative Randolph. Discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor, 0 against. The substitute for NCA 23-125 passes. NCA 23-126, allow the Muskogee Creek Nation. Oh, Ms. Killian, can we get a funding source for NCA 23-125?
Yes, ma'am. The funding source will be interest on permanent fund.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, NCA 23-126, allow the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the expenditure of funds for the benefit of the Muskogee Creek Nation's Light Horse Police Department for the U.S. Department of Justice, Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services 2023 COPS Office Tribal Resources Grant Program, Equipment and Training. Sponsor, Representative Randall Hicks.
Madam Chair, motion due pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Hicks. We have a second from Representative Randolph. Discussion? Representative Hicks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, we have Miss Angela Jones from Light Horse come down and speak on the legislation.
Why'd y'all go back up there?
Thank you so much. I should have stayed closer. Yes. So this is for the expenditure of funds for an award granted through DOJ again. This one is going to be for the purchase of 13 2025 Tahoes to fully upfit them for emergency personnel.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions regarding this legislation? Representative Golden?
Some time ago, there was a lot of funds, I don't know how much, appropriated for radio systems for all of the vehicles.
Yes, ma'am.
So is the, well, I guess I'm asking about the monies that are appropriated. Will they cover putting those radios in those vehicles?
The funding through ARPA, I believe, I'll have to check my funding source, that was appropriated prior, covered our vehicles that were already on the road. But we do have funding for these upfits to cover the radios to go in these radios, or to go into these units, excuse me.
And I, just another question about the radio system. I guess we've never heard that they're up and running and all of them is done. And
They are up and running, and I believe that we are working with the last few, getting them installed. But the radio system is up and running. They are in the cars. They do have their handhelds.
working.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Thank you.
Any other questions regarding this legislation? Any questions from the representatives online? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor, 0 against. NCA 23-126 passes. NCA 23-127, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the expenditure of grant funds awarded from the Internal Revenue Service for the benefit of the Office of the Secretary of the Nation. Sponsor, Representative Randall Hicks.
Madam Chair, motion do pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Hicks. We have a second from Representative Randolph. Discussion? Representative Hicks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This time, I'd like to give some time to Mr. Zachariah Harjo to elaborate on the legislation.
Shay. So this is the first of two very similar pieces of legislation. These are awards that we've received historically for the last, well, as long as I've been here. So this is our 5th year receiving both a TCE award and actually in our 3rd year receiving a VITA award. So they're regular grant awards that we receive and implement through the Secretary of the Nation's office and utilize it for the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program and the tax counseling for the elderly. So this legislation is for tax counseling for the elderly. We usually get a nominal award of $2,300 that helps us pay for supplies, and then the subsequent legislation will be for the VITA side of it.
Thank you, Mr. Harjo. Any questions? Representative Golden?
I'm just trying to recollect, Mr. Harjo, but at one time, I think you said, or the tax commissioner said that this was all going to be moved over to them.
Yep. We're still in that transitionary phase right now. I think this is probably the last year where the Secretary of the Nation will still be sponsoring it. I, as a site sponsor, have had to go through rigorous training and certifications every single year. And since this is just the 2nd year the tax commission would be implementing it, we didn't feel that there was someone that was able to take on that senior leadership role just yet. So we have implemented a number of their staff that do work and implement this program and did so this past year with the intention that next year, yeah, they'll fully take it over. And it might be that we both come to the agreement that the grant is still applied for and pursued through the Secretary of the Nation's office and then sub-granted essentially to the tax commission. But however that works out, the intention is to have it handed over to the tax commission within the near future.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any questions from the representatives online? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Andrew Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor, 0 against. NCA 23-127 passes. NCA 23-128, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the expenditure of grant funds awarded from the Internal Revenue Service Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program for the benefit of the Office of the Secretary of the Nation. Sponsor, Representative Randall Hicks.
Madam Chair, motion do pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Hicks. We have a second from Representative Randolph. Discussion?
Madam Chair, again, I'd like to allow Mr. Zachariah Harjo some time.
How'd you go back up there?
So to just state here, this is the same legislation essentially. So the difference between the programs is TCE is tax counseling for the elderly, which is 59 and above based on income. VITA is 59 and under based on income as well. The difference with this award, though, is it does require a 100% match. So there will be a $15,000, or there is a $15,000 tribal match requested to receive the $15,000 award from Internal Revenue Service. So just something to keep in mind. But again, this is our 3rd year implementing this very grant award along with the tribal match.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Any questions from the committee? Any questions from the representatives online? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Andrew Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor, 0 against. NCA 23-128 passes. NCA 23-129, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation appropriating funds to the Muskogee Creek Nation Office of the Attorney General to host the Justice of the Reservation Conference event. Sponsor, Representative Joe Hicks.
Madam Chair, make a motion for due pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Freeman. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? We have a second from Representative Hicks. Discussion? Representative Hicks.
Yes, Madam Chair, got AG Wisner sitting here, if she wants to speak on it. And also, there needs to be an amendment to that to change the dates to February 26th and 27th. Thank you.
Representative Hicks, can you repeat the dates, please?
February 26th and 27th.
2024. Okay. Ms. Wisner?
Yes, ma'am, and thank you for, again, for the opportunity to speak on this legislation. Not only as the tip of the spear for the Muskogee Creek Nation with the significant number of lawsuits, I think that it is important for us to be the leader and to train our law enforcement, prosecutors, and any other responders and advocates dealing with justice on what we expect and what are the best practices with respect to prosecuting matters. Previously, I was a trainer for the National District Attorneys Association. I know that there is significant need within the Muskogee Creek Nation on improving the response to child abuse and child sexual assault. What this training is a 2-day training that would involve medical providers, mental health providers, law enforcement, prosecutors, and judges to talk about how we can improve the disproportionate amount of child sexual assault and physical abuse within the Muskogee Creek Nation. Not only do I believe we are the leaders, I have planned to bring in some of the nation's best trainers on this matter who can train many of our partners within the reservation on what our expectations are and how we can do victim-centered prosecutions to better help our children and families. That is the purpose of this legislation and the request for the funding to provide this training.
Thank you, Ms. Wisner. Is there any questions regarding this legislation? Representative Golden?
Yes, Ms. Wisner, at one time, didn't you have an office that did this kind of training, and it was a national program office? Yes, ma'am. I was the executive director of the Native American Children's Alliance, working specifically on this issue. So not only do I have experience, it's close to my heart, trying to improve our responses and get us off of the statistics where we come first in the state as well as the nation in child abuse cases. I think that our Native children, as well as any other child that's on the reservation, I think that we deserve better than that. And I would like to, and I'm committed to, improving those responses to help our children. So is that Native American Children's Alliance part of putting this together? Unfortunately, it is not. The grant that we had has been taken over by a group out of Minnesota. However, a lot of the nationally recognized trainers I worked with would be and have been contacted and have committed to this training in February.
Representative Golden, are you good? Yes. Any other questions for Ms. Wisner? Representative Hicks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Ms. Wisner. First of all, is this open to the public, or is it just people that work with Muskogee Creek Nation?
Is it open to the public? The majority of it, yes. The part that has the physical abuse and the sexual abuse with the medical provider is limited to only first responders, simply because of the graphic nature of what will be covered. Otherwise, yes, I would highly encourage council to attend. Secondly, it's not only for our Muskogee Creek Nation professionals, but I want this to also be for county and state prosecutors and municipalities. I want them to hear from us what are those best practices and latest research so they can send us better reports, give us better evidence so that those cases can be better when they bring them to us. Again, lifting up the standard of our cases, not just with our professionals, but what we expect from county and state and federal practitioners as well.
Earlier, we were talking about budgets. Why wasn't this included in your budget?
I really, it came to me just recently, recognizing, first of all, the number of an inappropriate or unprofessional reports that we regularly see in the prosecutor's office. Maybe some of the recent decisions that we have seen our courts handle with respect to evidence, how our courts are handling children in the courtroom, and the lack of protections for those children. Seeing that come to light, especially most recently, and recognizing that we can and should take that leadership role in those training mechanisms. That's why I'm bringing it to the council's attention now. I would like to see it maybe even more so, not just limited to child abuse. I would like to see this as an annual training, focusing on a different topic next year, but keeping that tradition going.
Kind of goes to my next question. So who brought it to your attention or wanting to do this conference? Or
It's all mine.
okay.
Yes. And I have some in my office here, and anyone else who has been in my office, we regularly talk about how we are dedicated to improving the lives of all of our people. So it's kind of homegrown, if you will.
I was just curious. So what's your game plan if this does not get funded?
I'm going to see what my trainers can do, where I can host it, because I think that the need to improve those responses to help those children so they don't have secondary and third level trauma, I think that has to be, if I have to work with the state or any other agency, I'll find a way to do it. I would like for us to be, as we're recognized as the leader on criminal matters, I want us to step up to that plate and take that leadership role.
Okay. So is there a fee for participants or is it just open?
I think my thought this year is to have and invite all of the professionals and not charge, to be able to set that standard that we are. I anticipate this to be a very good training. I think that once I set that standard, that we're likely to have a fee next year, because I think that they'll want to come back.
Okay. And how many presenters do you have?
I think I have 5 spoken for so far.
5.
I think that's all I need, but I have 5 who have confirmed.
Okay. So looking at your budget that you submitted, your honorarium for presenters, you remember the amount that you put?
$15,000.
So if you have 5 presenters,
Yes, $3,000 each. I think that comes to $15,000.
to me, I mean, they may be worth it, but to me, that's a lot of money for a presenter.
In my experience, having conducted these trainings, and the level of professionalism, experience, and national recognition that each of them, the going rate for them is generally $8,000 to $10,000.
Like I said, I mean, that's your profession, and not, to me, on the outside, 3,000 looks like a lot for a presenter. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. We need to have a motion for the amendment to change the dates from November 20th, 21st, 2023 to to February 26, 2024.
Madam Chair, make those motion for those aforementioned dates.
We have a motion from Representative Randolph to change the dates. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Representative Hicks. Okay, any more discussion? Oh, we got it. Yeah, on the change. Any more discussion on the change? Okay, roll call vote on the amendment.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Patrick Freeman.
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor, 0 against, so the amendment has been approved. Now we're back to the main motion. Is there any other questions regarding Representative Golden?
Well, I just have a comment, and basically, it's just my concern with all the litigation that we have coming up in the next 6 months. You mentioned your staff would be a part of this, and somehow I just don't see that this is timely for us to do, or for your office to do. That's my big concern.
May I respond?
Sure, go ahead.
And I thank you for that comment, Ms. Golden. Unfortunately, regardless of what the litigation does, what may be next, unfortunately, we know that kids will be harmed. There will be harm. I don't think that I feel comfortable thinking or knowing that I can wait. I think that this is well overdue. I think I wish I had done this sooner, as Representative Hicks had pointed out. But as far as the harm and in trying to improve the welfare of our children, I think this should have been done long ago. I want to see it as a regular, ongoing training with the number of turnovers that happen in law enforcement, in legal, and in medical, and in advocacy. And yourself as well, knowing the behavioral health component to this. It's well overdue, and I truly believe that. I think our children deserve that now. They have deserved better, and I am committed to that. Thank you.
Any other questions? Representative Hicks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This question is for Ms. Patricia.
Ms. Killian?
I was just wondering what the funding source would be, or where the fundings would come from.
Well, I initially was going to suggest interest on permanent fund, but this also might be we could use some of the LATCF funding, which I know Zachariah is there, that we might ask him on that if that would qualify.
Mr. Harjo?
Ms. J. So yes, I mentioned to Ms. Killian that there are a number of funding sources. Of course, everyone asked if we could leverage ARPA funding. We could. It's not directly eligible, so we could fund it through revenue replacement. My recommendation, though, would be to appropriate LATCF, which is local and tribal consistency funding. The nation is in receipt of $3 million for fiscal year 22, and then once we spend that money down, we can draw down another $3 million for fiscal year 23. The purpose of those funds are to shore up anywhere that the nation or any eligible recipient government had a lack in revenue or whatnot. So we can really appropriate it to any purpose, and to the end of that there's a lot of pending litigation. One of the things that I'm hoping to work on, both with some of the cabinet members and maybe some input from council and the executive office, of course, is putting together a kind of response to the Reservation Protection Commission report from 2021. And part of that will be an investment in setting up, hopefully, a litigation fund and maybe some other funds, training funds potentially besides that. So I think that there is ample funding to move forward with this type of training. And to echo Madam Attorney General Weisner's comments, I believe as well that this is the exact appropriate use of these funds to demonstrate to the federal government that we are not only appropriating funds that have been granted to us, but we're doing so to respond to governmental issues that originally it goes back to the federal trust responsibility that the federal government has for us, and we would be appropriating these funds to directly respond to that. And so I think it would demonstrate response on multiple levels, both economically, but socially, politically, as well as in our investments with governmental funds.
Thank you, sir. Representative Hicks?
What funding source did you say again? I'm sorry.
LATCF, so Local and Tribal Consistency Fund. Similar to ARPA, it's definitely not the same allocation size, but it was designed to help out with kind of small costs like this. And in particular, I was very interested in setting up a litigation fund, as well as, like I said, some training things and investments, key investments in different offices that are kind of one-stop shop that would either leave us with assets at the end of it or help us pay for some ongoing costs that have exceeded our past year's experience, especially in litigation.
And how big was that budget?
Initially, we have $3 million available to us right now.
And do you have any carryover, or do you return yearly?
I'm confused by the question.
Out of this 3 million, do you, if you don't spend it all, do you have to return it, or does it carry over?
It'll carry over until the end of the period of performance, which I believe is still 4 or 5 years out. But we have more than enough expenses to spend it all down. So
Okay, that's what I needed to hear. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Harjo. Is there any other questions regarding this legislation from the committee? Any questions from the representatives online? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Andrew Golden,
No?
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 1 against.
We have 3 in favor, 1 against. NCA 23-129 passes. Ms. Killian, can you confirm, please, the funding source?
Yes, Zachariah, would this legislation need to change if we use the LATCF, or?
it likely would need to be substituted. Yeah, and I believe the guidance from Treasury told us to appropriate the funds the same way that we appropriate our own tribal dollars or our own governmental revenue.
So if that would need to be changed, we could just use the interest on permanent fund if, otherwise you would need to,
Amend the legislation or propose
Right.
amendments. Okay. More than happy to do either or.
Okay, Ms. Killian, we need a funding source. That'll determine which way we go, whether we need a substitute on this bill or not.
let's just go with the interest on permanent fund. That way we don't have to make any changes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Madam Chair,
Representative Hicks?
I base my support and vote off of the other funding source.
Okay. Ms. Alicia can get us a substitute ready for Saturday with the LATCF funding source and language.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is referred legislation, and there is none. Next item on the agenda is other business.
Madam Chair,
Representative Hicks?
make a motion to add TR 23111 and NCA 23132 to the agenda.
We have a motion from Representative Hicks to add TR 23-111 and also NCA 23-132. Do I have a second?
Okay.
We have a second from Representative Randolph. Any discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor, 0 against. PR 23-111 and NCA 23-132 has been added to the agenda. PR 23-111, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation approving and authorizing the MNGE Board of Directors to execute the gaming industry tip compliance agreement with the Internal Revenue Service. Sponsor, Representative Randall Hicks.
Madam Chair, motion do pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Hicks. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Representative Freeman. Discussion? Representative Hicks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, this is the annual tip agreement for the casinos, but I believe we have Andy Langston or Kevin AG online that could probably elaborate more.
Mr. Langston?
Yes. Hi, Council and Madam Chair. This is basically just what Representative Hicks just mentioned. It's our annual tip agreement with the government, and basically this outlines how we treat our tips when our employees receive them. We have to outline which ones are pulled, which ones aren't, and who's eligible for tipping. And that's really the gist of it. Not much changed at all, other than there was some pooling of tips for some of our floor reps. That was the only change. Those are the individuals that pay jackpots out on the floor.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there any questions for Mr. Langston regarding this legislation from the committee? Any from the representatives online? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor, 0 against. TR 23-111 passes. NCA 23-132. A law of the Muskogee Creek Nation appropriating funds to the Office of the Attorney General to be used for a comprehensive update to the Muskogee Creek Nation code, annotated print and electronic version. Sponsor, Representative Mark Randolph.
Motion do pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Randolph.
Second.
We have a second from Representative Hicks. Discussion? Representative Randolph?
Madam Chair, could we get some time to our AG,
Ms. Weisner?
Weisner?
Afternoon again, and thank you for the opportunity to speak on this legislation. The Muskogee Creek Nation Code makes the Attorney General responsible for the update of the code and its annotated versions. The last time the code was updated was 2010. If any of you have a copy of that, you will realize that much of that is well out of date. Any of the pocket parts, those are the little additions that go in the back, at this point are thicker than the book themselves. In addition, if you look online to our code, which we're required to do and provide, it has our basic codes, but after it, it has all of the NCAs, all of the changes to that title and chapter, which are basically stacked on top of it, like rocks on top of a sharp mountain. I anticipate your question, which, why wasn't this in my code, in my budget allocation? We recently found out just exactly what this is going to cost. Previously, we had used Westlaw for the printed versions to get the code annotated and so forth. They are no longer doing that. They're out of that business. So we had to search out and work with Thomson Routers, who spent a lot of time with us trying to come up with an estimate on what we're asking for and the amount of work that's going to take to make this happen. So not only is Thomson Reuters going to help us with the format on the website to be able to provide it and make it happen, we have to work with them to be able to find out all of the NCAs that have to do with that chapter. Where do they go? The question is, and even looking at them online, you don't know if it amends part of the code or if it is an addition to the code. And so when you're reading it, there is a lot of confusion. And good luck if you lose your place on which NCA tab you are, because you have to start all over if you do. So the work will include trying to find out where the NCAs are going to fit within that chapter. On top of that, I'm looking to not only get this corrected, but thinking ahead to prevent us from being in this situation again in 2 years, 5 years, or 20 years down the road. How can we avoid that? And that's where I would request working with either Kyle or with the National Council to determine when there are new bills, how do we look at the code and determine where they need to go? Is it an amendment that changes part of the language, or is it an addition? That should be with each of the codes or law changes. It should be added with it so we know exactly where to put it. So that will take care of that. In addition, this funding will help. We need data input. If you look at the code, much of it has been scanned. The NCAs have been scanned and made a part of the code. But not all of them are clean copies. Some of them are sideways, so we can't convert them from PDFs to a Word version. So they have to be retyped. Almost more than half of everything online has to be retyped. So we're looking to hire temporary personnel to be able to help, and I'm hoping that we can use Muskogee employees or personnel to be able to participate in that part of this project. On top of that, when this goes live and working with Thomson Reuters on making it so, I want to see, along with our codes, the multitude of treaties that the Muskogee Nation has historically signed. I want them accessible so our citizens know what they are and they have they're readily accessible. On top of that, I want to print copies of the Muskogee Creek Nation Constitution and make them available so people can put them in their pockets. I'd like to have them available outside of our council room, outside of our courtroom. Many of our citizens do not have access to the internet, and I want them to have access to our laws. This is the backbone of who we are, and I want them to have access to this. So this legislation will not only help us to work this project to where we make it available online, we clean up our codes and our laws where they can be comprehensive, understandable, that will have not only the codes and the laws, but we'll have our treaties listed on there, and available constitutions for our tribal members who are interested in having copies of those. And on top of that, and we'll have several copies, hardbound copies of our codes so that those would be accessible as well. It's an onerous project. There is a lot to it. It has taken me a little while to find all answers to all the moving parts. I think I have. I've built in a little bit of time and a little bit of wiggle room in case there are some issues that may come up. But with this being the responsibility of the Attorney General, I think that I need some help in making this happen, making the laws of this nation accessible to our people, as well as anyone else who is taking a look at it. Mado.
Thank you, Ms. Wisner. Is there any questions for Ms. Wisner? Representative Randolph?
I'd just like to say, I know it's been something that's been a long time coming, and I'm glad to see that we're gonna go ahead and tackle this and get it done. And I'd like the little pocketbook constitutions ideal. A lot of times I get phone calls and I think to myself, I wish we could have a big civics class for our nation to realize also how the branches of government come into play, their responsibilities, and then just our basic constitution, your rights, who you are as a Muskogee person. So I applaud all the efforts, and I know it's a great undertaking, but it can be done and it has to be done. So
Any other questions from the committee? Representative Golden?
Yes, I too applaud you for all of the work and that you've endeavored to get this done and figured out. I guess there's two things I have. One is when when these code books are done, are we going to have just our Muskogee Creek seal on there, or you're going to put the swastika thing on there too?
I haven't contemplated that. I look forward to coming back to you. I haven't contemplated. I think at this point in time, the one thing I know I would like to see on there and is the Great Seal of the Muskogee Creek Nation.
Well, I personally, when I go somewhere and I see the seal and then I see that other thing plastered up there, that's not our seal. It's not Muskogee Creek Nation. And so I personally don't want to see that on any of the things that we do, especially our Constitution and the code books that represent our Creek Nation. The other part is, and then this goes back to the legislation that we had on torts and civil, and I would like to see those in that code book because I understand that that's really important for the courts to move things along. And so if it ever comes back, will it be in those code books?
If it's made a law, I believe that it's required to be in the code books.
We're waiting on the Attorney General's office to say that they agree with what was in the legislation and bring it back.
Okay, then if that's how it all works itself out, then it will be in there.
Because that was postponed last month based on what the Attorney General said.
Okay.
The Attorney General's office said that they didn't have the time in order to make sure that everybody understood the legislation, and we couldn't postpone it anymore. So if we postpone it indefinitely, then that means that the Attorney General's office has to do their timeliness with it and bring it back so that it will be a part of the code book, because it's a law. It will become a law.
And if that's what is required and that's what's in the process, then it will be a part of the books. And it will be made a part of the code.
That's what I'm asking. When will it be done by the Attorney General's office?
Oh, if it's in process, I would have to go back and check and find out where it is. I didn't check on that before coming over, but I can follow up with you.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions regarding this legislation? Representative Hicks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Weiser, in the legislation, it speaks of phase 1 and phase 2. And then in your budget, it does show the amount for phase 1. But also phase 2, it's not covered. The monthly fee and the yearly fee.
In phase 2, I don't believe, I think are you asking about the financial obligation under phase 2?
Yeah, where is that coming from?
Thomson Reuters has explained to us that in order for them to maintain and continue updating monthly all of the bills and laws that are integrated into the code, that would be that expense.
So who's covering it? Who's covering that expense?
That's what I'm asking for. And if it is in the future, I could, and I would anticipate making that part of my annual budget in that it's my responsibility to do so. I would see that being an annual part of the budget that I would be requesting.
So you're only asking for phase one.
Only for phase one, because I'm not to phase two yet. In my 2025 budget, that would be next year in the end of September, I would be asking for that phase two monies.
I was just making sure if it needed to be added to amend it, but if not, then,
No, I appreciate, no.
Okay.
I know, I see that being a future ask.
okay. All right,
Thank
thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions from the committee? Any questions from the representatives online? Ms. Weiser, the only thing I have is, if this is approved, how soon would the process begin, and about a time frame, how long it'll take?
I anticipate within the month, and I think Clint Wilson, who's been working with me on this, and he's been directly communicating with Thomson Routers, who would help us with that first, with just getting us the format of it, as well as working to get the data input. That's going to be the most time consuming of all of this. I would say that would probably commence by the end of the year.
Any idea how long it's going to take?
I would hope, based on what I know about this, any unforeseeable issues that would come up, I would hope we would have this completed within 6 to 8 months.
Okay, I just didn't know if that could possibly part of the contract that is signed later on, once we actually get started, if this is approved. Okay.
I know that I'm anxious to see it, as well as many others. And with the assistance of of data input personnel, as well as the contract with Thomson Routers and moving forward, I fully anticipate 6 to 8 months. We should have a product that we would have online and accessible.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Wilson?
Yes, thank you, committee. I'd just like to add that in regards to the timeframe, as AG Weisner had mentioned, we're trying to work with the Muskogee Staffing Solutions to hire our temp employees. And that was the process, is to get this project started and completed as soon as practically possible. And on the second page of the project document, it mentions that the median estimate, and this is from Thomson Reuters, who had provided this information that we base this on, is approximately 800 hours of work to do the data entry. And if we had 5 temp employees working for 4 weeks, that's the estimate of how long it would take to get the project completed once the system's created. Our understanding is that once we can execute the contract, and it would take approximately 3 days to start to build, and within a month, I believe 2 to 3 weeks, the actual online system, the framework and the structure would be complete. And by that time, our understanding is it would take approximately 1 to 3 weeks to actually hire temp employees. So that's the time frame, is the time to hire temp employees to start working. The system will be being finalized, the online structure, so that it should all fall into place. Hopefully it goes a lot quicker, but these are the estimates that we relied on the professionals for these.
Thank you, sir. Representative Golden?
Yeah, I would just now like to make my request that the 2 pieces of legislation to amend or to create subsections in Title 27, that those come from your office as soon as possible, to make sure that they get in these code books.
Yes, Ms. Gold, and I will, I can contact your legislative clerk, Ms. Strobel, to address having that if the committee would be open to it, to have it on a joint committee.
Okay, any other questions? Representative Hicks?
Not a question, just a comment based off of, a comment Mr. Clint Wilson made, is kudos to Ms. Weiser and your staff for using Muskogee Solutions as part of, being a part of this to get it done. So I did pick up on that, and I just wanted to say I appreciate you guys using our own companies. So kudos.
That is the intent. I know that originally it was mentioned we use key personnel or some other temporary personnel. However, I know that as a tribal member, as a citizen, I would want to be a part of this project. And I think not only giving our tribal members a job, especially this time of the year, and being a part of something that we can be proud of.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you to both groups.
Okay, any other questions or concerns? Any questions or concerns for the representatives online? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden,
Yes?
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor, 0 against. NCA 23-132 passes. Ms. Killian, what would be the funding source, please?
The funding source will be the gaming fund.
Okay, gaming fund. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, next item on the agenda is MNGE.
Madam Chair, I make a motion going to executive session for the report.
We have a motion from Representative Hicks to go into executive session for the report. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Representative Freeman. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph, Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 0 against.
We have 3 in favor, 0 against. That motion passes. We are in executive session at 5:42. No action taken in executive session. Next item on the agenda is announcements. Any announcements from the committee? Go ahead, Ms. Golden.
The Okima Indian community is having their annual fall festival starting tomorrow and Saturday.
Aren't they having a pageant, an elderly pageant tomorrow evening?
Elderly princess pageant is at 6:30 Saturday.
Oh,
And the
Saturday?
parade is at 1 o'clock Saturday.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements? Representative Hicks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make a formal apology to Speaker Lowe and Judge Wiley. If the email was sent and if I overlooked it, I just want to apologize and want to apologize if I happen to overlook it, so.
Well, I think it would have been beneficial to have it attached to the legislation. That would have been easier for everybody. Okay. Representative Golden?
Yeah, Saturday, FAM is having their Hall of Fame people announced, and Will Sampson we're going to honor.
Okay.
I didn't know if everybody knew that, but I'm glad that people didn't forget him.
Okay. Any other announcements? Oh, we have intertribal next Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at Hard Rock in Catoosa. Okay. Next item on the agenda is adjournment. A motion. Oh, Representative Hicks?
Just wanted to say congratulations on your new addition to your family.
Thank you. You make me cry. Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
I have a motion to adjourn from Representative Hicks. Do I have a second? Second from Representative Golden. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay. Ms. Golden, if you provide the benediction, that'll serve as our adjournment. We'd appreciate it. Thank you, Ms. Golden. We're adjourned at 6:18.